Video will be see about what is the difference between stateful widget and stateless widget in Flutter. So this is a big debate for the Flutter developer who have been working with the stateful widget and stateless widget. So in this video, I will show you when to use this stateful widget and how to use it, and we'll show you a practical demonstration with example. Okay. So before getting into the Flutter stateful widget and stateless widget, first we need to understand what is state in UI's perspective. Let's say state is nothing but a state when a variable is changed. For example, let's say we have a variable c, so its initial value, let it be 0. Okay, so whenever you change programmatically, let's say you are incrementing the c++, so it will be obviously it will become c is equal to 1, right? So this particular state, which is this 0 is changed to 1. So there is a change in state. So this is what called state. But in UI perspective, so whenever this particular C variable is changed in as a variable state, so it should reflect in the UI, which is user interface. Okay. So that is what we called as stateful widget. So we have two widgets, right? Stateful widget and stateless widget for the Flutter. Okay, so this particular state is common for all programming language, and this stateful and stateless is specifically for the Flutter. So this stateful widget handles the state of the UI whenever the variable changes. Let's say if the C is changed to 0 to 1, so this particular, if the particular C variable is mapped to a UI, is mapped to the UI, then automatically it will be reflected in your UI. Okay, so when it comes to stateless widget, so same happens here. You have a variable c equal to 0, and when you change the c is equal to 1, it does not reflect in the UI. So when you move to the other page and come back to the same page again, then you will notice the change. This is happening because this particular widget is not aware of the state of this particular variable c. But the stateful widget will be always aware of the variable which is binded to the UI. Okay, so let's see how we can implement this in our Flutter code. Let's move on to VS Code. So for now, I'm going to create a new Flutter project to show you the clean code that handles the stateful and stateless widget. What we are going to do is going to create a new Flutter project. For that, we need to run this like view command palette and new Flutter project. Yeah. So I'm going to create application. So I'm going to select a folder in state. As per Flutter documentation, we should use underscore instead of hyphen. Okay. So I'm just going to create my application name as state app. So this particular flutter.create will create a package. It will create the necessary files that will help you in the Flutter development. So now once everything is done, all we need to do is we need to just edit this main.dot file, which is inside this lib file, lib folder. So just come and like delete everything. So now we have deleted the predefined classes that have been given from the Flutter. So now we're going to create our own main method. So for that, we will have this like this. I'm going to create my app as material app. So inside the material app, to call it, we have so many functions. So let me set routes for it. Okay. So just go to this so we can quick fix the issue. Just keep the hand quick fix, and yeah, we have imported it. For the routes, we need to set a login view, as we have a login view, and this particular login view will be having, should open our login view. Yeah, so then we have a login view without state. Okay, so text login view without state. So we have set two routes, but we need to make sure which route should open first, right? So for that we have initial route. So initial route will be login view. Okay, this will be routes. So we need to run this app. For that we have run app method. Inside I'm passing this app. So what we are going to create is we are going to create a stateful widget first. So for that we have a shortcut in VS Code which is STF. So when you give this, you will automatically able to create this and just rename the class as you want. Just rename this class as you want. Got it? So this particular class is the stateful widget. So as we extended this class to a stateful widget, it will act as a stateful widget. Okay. So we need to create another file which is named a login view without state, right? Dot. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a stateless. For that we have a shortcut which is STL, which means stateless. So here you will name it as login view without state. Got it. So this particular widget is class is extended to the stateless widget, and this particular login is extended to the stateful widget. Okay. So let's see what is the differential happening in both of them. So I'm going to write the same code in both. So for that, I have created a scaffold. I have added a center widget. So to make this column to center to make the UI more visible at the center. So I added two widgets, which is a text with counter 0 and elevated button. So whenever I click this elevated button, what I'm going to do is I'm going to increment this counter variable. So for the stateful widget, I will be using a set state method, which will be aware of the state that I'm going to change for this particular variable. Okay. When it comes, we will just copy this code and paste it in the same stateless widget. So it is obvious that we cannot use state function inside this because it is stateless widget. So for now, I just put this 0 and we cannot use the state because stateless widget does not have state within it. So whenever I press this click me to increment, this particular counter will be incremented. Okay. So to make our visibility more precise, then I will make a debug print. In main, we need to add this. 1 second. Making some mistake here. Oh yeah, that's a mistake. Okay. So let me run this code. So now you can see that we have got an output with this C0 and click me to increment. As we configure in the code, the 0 indicates this counter and this click here, click me to increment indicates the elevated button. So whenever I click this button, it should increment the counter with the debug print. So you can see my variable have been incremented with this log 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So whenever my variable state is changed, it is also reflected in my UI. So this is how stateful widget work. So whenever it comes to stateless widget, let me change the initial route to stateless widget and rerun my program. So you can see the same page has been delivered because the same logic has been done in both of the code. So this is for stateless. So whenever I click this, click me to increment, you can see the state is not aware in the UI. But actually, when you go back to the debug count, you can see the state is stateless called the variable, and the variable is incremented every time when I click this stateless counter. So let me do it again. So you can see whenever I click this, there is a state increment in the console, but it is not reflected in the UI. So it is obvious that whenever you use the stateless widget, it is not reflected in the UI. But when it comes to stateful widget, whenever you change the variable which is mapped to the UI, it will be incremented in UI also. So make sure that you use your stateful widget and stateless widget wherever you want. So if you want UI aware variable to be changed in the UI every time, please don't forget to use the stateful widget for that. But if your variable is not aware of the UI and should do some business logic behind the scene, then you can go with stateless widget. So thank you for watching this. So if you like the content, please subscribe and